When placing your pocket, you want to make sure that you just have a single layer of fabric, and if there's any like big wrinkles, make sure you always iron those out first before placing your pocket. Okay, once again, you can kind of decide where you want your pocket. So I want mine on the right side of my apron. So I'm going to kind of place it. You can use, there are some guidelines on your apron pattern, or you can kind of just figure out where you want it if you were to like hold it up to your body and kind of see where you want to place it. Now I want everything tucked back in as if I had like where I had it pressed. I want the top with the top stitching up near the top of your pocket. So the curved piece is up here where it goes narrow. That's the top of our apron. So that's how I have it kind of oriented on here. Then I'm going to place it. I kind of like to check with my ruler just to make sure that I have it like straight. If I need to kind of adjust it at all. Okay, and then I like to pin like one on each of the different sides to hold it in place. Okay, I just want to show you a finished pocket just so you can kind of see what our goal is. So we're going to be sewing a continuous stitch all the way around to secure the pocket to the piece of fabric. And the reason why I just don't go straight down, but I have this little triangle piece, is because it reinforces the top. So when you're like pulling down or have things in it, it doesn't rip through that corner. So I do have this handout if you'd like to use. I have copies of it, but this kind of shows you the like what the different pieces that we're going to be doing. So this tells us like kind of the numbers that we're going to, like the steps and which direction we're going to go to make it complete. And this kind of just reminds you of what you're going to do of like how that measurement is. So we're going to make this measurement on the top of your pocket. So we're going to do it at 3/8 of an inch. So on here, so 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to measure over from the edge of my pocket. And I just make just a tiny little mark. Remember, we want to use a fabric pencil or marker so that it's temporary and will wash away. And I'm going to do that mark on both sides. Then I'm going to draw a line from that mark down to the base of my stitching line. You can use this ruler or get a different ruler, whatever is easiest. Okay, so you can see here's my diagonal line and this is my diagonal line. So we're going to start on the right diagonal line. This is the one that I'm going to be placing in my machine first. I just have like the single layer of fabric, and I have it laid out because one common mistake is that it gets caught up underneath and you sew it to part of your body of your apron. So you want to make sure that this fabric is really flat, and that's kind of what I use my left hand, is just making sure it's nice and smooth and flat. So I'm going to go ahead and backstitch, and I'm going to sew up to this point, then I'm going to pivot across the top, sew down the side, and work my way around it. So right now, if I'm looking at this paper here, we're doing this one. So to do it, I actually have it upside down so that I can sew and then pivot and then turn and then work my way around the pocket. If you want to, because we're going to be changing a lot, you can always put your needle position down so that it stops automatically with the needle in the fabric, so you don't have to use your hand wheel every single time. So my needle is in the fabric. I'm about just like a stitch away from the edge because I want to be at about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to turn it so that now I'm going across the top edge of my pocket, and I'm going to go about 3 stitches. That's like about like 3 or 4. That's about how much you need it to be able to be at 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to rotate it again. Once I rotate it, I'm going to smooth out my fabric so it's still flat. So now I'm going to sew down the length of my pocket at 1/8 of an inch to the inside cross of the toe. Okay, I'm going to pivot at the corner, so just when the fabric gets right about in the middle of that plate, so when my needle is in my fabric, and lift it around. So again, as you see, I'm adjusting as I go because I really don't want any of the fabric to get caught as I'm sewing. So I'm always just focused in this center section where my needle is, that it's nice and flat. With this being the last side, I'm going to sew all the way up to my corner of my side of my pocket. Then I'm going to pivot And across the top, I'm just going to do those 4 stitches since I did 4 on the other side. And then I'm going to pivot and sew back down to the base of my top stitching that I did before I placed my pocket. Okay, so I have this pocket done. I took out my pin in the center. It should be flat. I shouldn't have caught anything underneath, and I've trimmed my threads. So again, it's up to you. I might just keep this pocket, just one pocket on one side, or I might go ahead and sew another pocket on the back side so that it's truly a reversible apron. It's up to you.